Welcome, Chris Daughtry, to Milan, and welcome to Linea Rock.
Thank you for having me. Buongiorno.
Okay, so this is the first time for you to tour Italy,
First
actually.
time.
So this is March 2013, and so we're ready for the show tonight in Milan. So what, the people can expect? Are you excited?
It's a high energy show. For those who know our albums, we're playing songs from all four. And we're very excited to finally play for our Italian fans.
Oh, good. Okay, so new album Baptized is, let's say, a sentimental celebration of family and simple things in life.
That's a good way to say it.
Okay, so why at this point of your career you felt this kind of inspiration? And has it something to do with fame that maybe can change your life?
I find inspiration everywhere, and in my life, in real life. My family certainly is a big part of that. My wife and my kids, they tend to inspire a lot of the lyrical content. But it was probably the most inspiring record that I've had a part in so far. It's very personal.
And the sound seems more pop rock this time.
Yeah, it is more pop.
Okay.
There's a lot of stuff going on that, production-wise, that I wanted to incorporate into what we did. After doing 3 records that were very similar, I felt like it was time to kind of branch off a little bit and make this a definitive chapter.
So it was your own choice,
yes,
actually. Okay.
Absolutely.
18 Years and Wild Heart are 2 very intense and personal songs. Do you want to talk about them?
18 Years is about basically a friend of mine that we grew up together, and we had similar dreams, moving forward, and it's about remembering the time you had together, and growing up and didn't really have any cares, and so that's very nostalgic song for me. Wild Heart is about my wife. Yeah.
So they are very special songs for you.
Exactly.
Okay. Do you still actually are friends with that guy?
Absolutely.
Okay, so he's still part of
I just don't really see him a lot. We're in different states, so.
And did he realize immediately that the song was about him?
Well, I told him.
Okay, so.
I'm sure he would have caught on. But.
All right, and High Above the Ground is another special song, which is about a vacation that you did in Italy with your wife. Is that correct?
Yeah. It certainly inspired some of those lyrics. It's not exactly about that, but it is. That was a moment where we, were completely away from the kids, and it was our first vacation in 7 years. And,
wow!
And didn't have. It was just myself and her, and it was.
Where did you go exactly?
Florence, Rome, and Venice.
Okay, so it was love at first sight for Italy for you. That was the first vacation.
She had always wanted to go to Italy. I'd never been, and it was definitely all it could have been.
Okay, Lovely Rock and Roll is another particular song, and which is about your origins once again, and the same old way to play and live rock and roll. Pretty nostalgic in a sense, but I guess that everyone that was born across the 70s and 80s can relate to it, pretty well. How did it came about? The inspiration, it was just a nostalgic moment, or
I was working with Martin Johnson and Sam Hollander, who I ended up doing half the record with, and they had this line about the whole comparison of, at the time it was The Boss or Billy Joel.
Yes.
We changed it to Elton John or Billy Joel. And he had a couple lines about the long-lived big guitars and music. So he had this idea, and it was kind of this folky, sound, and I was like, man, that's very different than anything I've done before, and I was a little like, I don't know if I would do something like that. But we just started kicking around ideas, and I was like, I was born in 1979, and we started talking about the whole disco demolition And so I was like, well, I guess I was born the year that disco died. And they were like, that's how we open the song. And so it just kind of spawned these ideas, and started figuring out how to, navigate my personal introduction into music with some of the historical references, and make it, fun at the same time. So
some references are, very. I mean, you can get them immediately, because if you listen to rock and roll, for example, very quickly, if I say to you Van Halen or Van Hager, what would you pick?
I would say Van Halen.
Okay, and Slippery When Wet or Keep the Faith?
Slippery When Wet.
Okay, and the Beatles or the Rolling Stones, which is very difficult.
That's a difficult one, because I always have to explain myself, because if I just said my answer, everybody would be like, really? I'm a Stones fan, but if we're specifically talking who wrote, the best songs as a collection of songs, you got to go with the Beatles. I mean, some of the best songwriters in our history. But as far as personally, I'm a fan of the Stones.
Okay, which had a long career.
Yeah.
So. You sing also, grunge was everything, at least it was to me.
Yeah.
Which grunge bands you still keep in your heart and soul? And did you also share and appreciate the philosophy of grunge?
That was kind of when I got into music, and I was really drawn in by the sounds of like Soundgarden, Alice in Chains. This wasn't necessarily a grunge band, more of an alternative band at the time, but Live was the band that the album Throwing Copper, like that made me want to be a songwriter.
Okay.
So yeah, those were all very instrumental in me being a musician, and inspiring me to want to write.
And which element of grunge that you maybe absorbed back in the days stick out in your music right now, in your opinion?
A lot of the songwriting was just very simple. It wasn't overcomplicated guitar playing. It was simple chords with great melodies and honest lyrics. Which to me is rock and roll.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about Baptized Deluxe Edition? Were you, a collector yourself of your heroes, and what's special in that edition?
I'm not exactly sure what's on that over here. I want to say there's a few bonus tracks on there. Do you have the list? Is it Cinderella?
No,
and
I don't.
Undefeated?
I don't have the list with me. Okay.
And I think we had a couple acoustic versions of some of the song, Battleships and Long Live Rock and Roll.
Okay.
I always for the bands that I loved, I always wanted that extra stuff. I wanted those rare tracks or bootleg, CDs from when they were performing live, because back then there was no such thing as iTunes, and generally there was no such thing as deluxe editions.
Yes.
That was stuff that came way later.
Right.
So
that's the spirit. That's behind the choice of making.
It's giving it to them now. Giving them that little extra.
Usually artists coming out of talent shows rush things quickly, and but also quickly fade away in a sense. It wasn't Daughtry case. 7 years of huge success, and you're still on top. Which was the toughest moment for you, and why you? Why you actually succeeded and lasted so long?
I have no clue. I'd like to say it's because of the songs we write, and the fact that people feel they can connect to them. The same way they can connect to a Bon Jovi song or Aerosmith, those songwriters that write songs that pull at the people's heartstrings, and that's, it's always been about the song to me. It's always been it's not about just banging a guitar and just going out and saying whatever. I want it to have meaning. I want it to make people feel, and and that's what made me love music in the first place, songs that made me feel. And so that's something that I've always really put a lot of focus on.
AC/DC used to say, you know, it's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll.
Yeah.
What do you answer to people that say that maybe for Daughtry it wasn't a long way to the top?
Well,
because,
I mean,
you know, there's a story before, and so you started young. So
I started young. I played in clubs until I was like 24 and went on American Idol 25, 26. So, I mean, it felt like a long road because I was doing that for almost 10 years
Yes.
and not getting anywhere. So, and it's, you know, that still rings true today. I mean, it's hard to, it's a very competitive industry, and it's very hard to stay on that level. And, you know, we're 4 albums deep now. We're not where we were, you know, as far as album sales, but there's not many that are either. You know,
yes.
with
the industry
with the industry changing and everything, and then so it's definitely a very competitive, difficult industry to stay in, and you know, thank God we're still able to do what we do, and we're in Italy for the first time. You know, we're able to still do things that we haven't done.
And was it maybe difficult for you to appeal to a pure rock audience, which is maybe always very conservative, and, you know, thinking that you were coming out of a talent show, maybe they were like, hey, who is this guy?
Yeah, I didn't really think about it.
Okay.
I put out the songs and the music that I wanted to, and hoped to grab as many people's attention as possible. So,
has your audience changed since, you know, the early, since the first album that, you know, you had that boom, that huge success? Is it growing
I
with
think
you?
I think it changes with everywhere we go. The demographic is, you know, can be from, you know, 13-year-old kids to, you know, 50, 60-year-old women, and some guys, and it's kind of a wide range.
Okay.
I can't really put a finger on, you know, a definitive demographic.
Did you ever notice any Slayer T-shirts at your show?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
yes.
Okay.
We've had the occasional Slayer T-shirt, and it's always interesting to see. I love seeing that because that means that they appreciate all kinds of music, and it's not like, oh, if it ain't Slayer, then you suck, you know.
Okay. And that's all around the world, or mostly in the States?
It depends.
It depends.
But yeah, there's we get it pretty much everywhere.
All right. When it came to form your band, you organized some auditions. Did you have complete decisional power, and what were your expectations back then? What you were looking for? What did it take to play with you?
Yes, I did have power. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm the one that has to, you know, be out on the road with them. So, it was an interesting process, to say the least. I mean, that was 7 years ago, almost 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Our guitar player Brian, I've known him for a long time. I played in clubs with him back when I was a teenager, and so I knew him going into the auditions, and obviously wanted him to be in. But he had a difficult audition, to say the least. But it was about what felt right. You know, there was a lot of great players that came in that were, you know, probably better players than some of the guys that are actually in the band, technically. But it didn't feel like the right guys for the band, you know.
So you wanted actually a band.
There was a chemistry.
Proper band,
yeah,
you know?
There was a chemistry there that felt that you didn't have to really see it, like you felt it when it was happening, and that was kind of. And we've had a few changeovers since then for different reasons, but the lineup we have now is very solid. And
you've changed actually through the years. You changed some members, but
yeah, we had to change one, and let's see, one actually left and then came back.
Okay.
Yeah, for
So-
personal reasons. Yeah.
But what do you remember actually of those first auditions? I mean, did you instantly figure out that which were the right guys? Or
At the time,
yeah.
you know, and some of them weren't right and ended up kind of showing themselves later. Yeah.
All right. So we can consider this definitely a band.
This is, yes.
And that was one of your, I mean, you didn't want to go out as a solo artist
No. That wasn't.
because of your background and...
Yeah, I was always in bands, so it
Yeah,
just
so-
always felt like, of course I needed a band, you know.
Okay. You collaborated with Chuck Kroger of Nickelback
Mm.
and Jason Wade of Lifehouse, Slash,
Mm-hmm.
Tyler Connolly of Theory of a Deadman. Which collaboration do you remember as the best? And which one fit, you know, the best to you, not only maybe for the final result, but for the atmosphere behind it?
They're all very unique. The Jason Wade collaboration was for the Lifehouse record. Actually, I collaborated with him on a song from Leave This Town,
Yeah.
as well as a song from one of their records. So, and we're really, really good friends, so that was always a lot of fun. Working with Tyler, that was actually an idea that I pitched him for the Theory of a Deadman record.
Yeah.
And they wrote around it. So I was never in the room with him,
Alright.
working with him. I later then came in and did background vocals on that song. Working with Chad was awesome. We've written 3 songs together, and he's a fun guy to write with. He's definitely very well versed in his craft, and it was really cool to pick up some of his songwriting stuff. Yeah.
Is there anybody you would like to work with that you have in mind?
You know, I don't like chasing people down, so I'm of the mind, like, if it happens naturally, that always just feels like a better fit. But I would like to do a song with Pink. That would be cool.
All right.
Yeah.
Is American Idol still very popular in the States? And how is now the quality level compared to, you know,
Yeah, I think a lot of
those auditions?
I think a lot of TV shows, primetime TV shows right now are suffering in the States because of Netflix and, you know, the network television shows, like, you know, the you know, more of the cable network stuff. And there's a lot of singing competition shows now,
Yeah.
where before American Idol was the only one, so it didn't have anything to compete with. So I think those are a lot of factors that prohibit it from having the ratings that it used to. With
So
that,
it's not only equality matters.
yeah.
for-
With that being said, I think this year, from what I've seen, is the best year in a long time.
Okay.
The producers on the show are doing a pretty fantastic job, and I think the judging panel is better than it's been in the past. So it's hard to say though,
Okay.
because there's a lot of competition right now.
For you, do you think that would have been, you know, a rock and roll life anyways, even without that, you know, exposition that you had with American Idol? I mean, you would have succeeded anyways. What do you think?
You know, that's a hard thing to say because I didn't. You know what I mean? I did it for 10 years and
Okay.
it didn't work out, right? So I felt that was my way of getting in front of as many people as possible.
Yes.
And it was like an audition for the world, you know. So I personally think that was my destiny, that was my avenue to get to where I'm at right now.
And is it different for you in Europe, since, you know, that is an American show, but you have success also in our continent? Do people perceive you in a different way here, since, you know?
Yeah, I think mostly here it's about the music.
Yeah.
They don't know the television aspect of it as much as the people in the States. So
Yeah.
that's always a fun kind of, you know, aspect of how people discover you
Yeah.
in different countries.
First album, Daughtry, became the fastest selling debut rock album in SoundScan history. How is it complicated year by year to live up to that?
You just don't.
Okay.
Yeah, that was something that certain things happen for a reason, and I just came off that show. There was all this heat behind me because I was in front of people's faces, for 3 months every night, practically, and so there's all kinds of factors. Rock was huge at the time on the radio, on like Hot AC and Top 40, so we had an advantage, to come out the way we did, and then radio, of course, changes. Yes. So what you did back in 2006 doesn't necessarily work on the radio now. Right. So it's a little bit of a different thing, and so you don't really. If I tried to do an album every time and say, oh, we got to live up to that, it would just screw it. Screw our whole mindset up. So we don't even pay attention to that stuff. We take it for what it was. We're very happy that we have those stats under our belt, and then we move on. All right. And always try to outdo ourselves.
Today, 1 year ago, Pope Francisco was elected, and he changed, in just 1 year, he changed a lot, the church, but not only that. Are you a religious person? Did you follow his message? What do you think about him, and what America, think about him?
That is not my place.
All right.
Yeah, not my place.
So, all right. So let's go on. Back to music. So Grammys, awards, you count millions in sales. Your songs have been used in commercials, WWE, and so on. Which achievement since 2006 you are proudest of, and which is your goal at the moment?
Well, being nominated for 4 Grammys was awesome. It would be nice to take one home in the future. Hopefully we were able to get nominated again. I think one of the biggest goals is to, I think it would be really cool to play stadiums.
Okay.
Why not? U2, the bands that we look up to, like the Rolling Stones and U2 and Aerosmith, you see these bands in Bon Jovi doing stadiums, that just seems like it would be the kind of like the epitome of success.
All right. And what's immediately next? So you're on tour right now?
We're in Europe for another 2.5 weeks.
Okay.
Maybe 3 weeks, and then we go back to the States. Have a little bit of a break before we go out on tour this summer with a band called the Goo Goo Dolls.
Yes.
We're about to do a summer tour with those guys and the Plain White Tees, and so we've got a pretty busy next few months ahead of us. Yeah. How
do you imagine yourself in 10 years?
Worn out. Tired. I don't know.
Still do music.
I would love to still be doing this. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for your time.
Thanks
Chris,
for having me.
And see you next time. Hopefully you will be back in Italy.
Yes. Well, we plan to.